Get ready to whip your hair into shape with CurlMix, the curl-tastic sensation storming through Ulta beauty aisles. With over $32 million in lifetime sales, this dynamic duo is ready to make waves in the equity crowdfunding world.
Next Pitch TV showcases the most innovative equity crowdfunding campaigns for the verdict of the crowd.
Meet the brain behind the curls, Kimberly Lewis, as she shares her journey from kitchen chemist to beauty mogul extraordinaire. Join us on Next Pitch TV as we dive into the luscious locks of CurlMix.
First of all, welcome to Next Pitch TV, where we showcase the most innovative equity crowdfunding campaigns for the verdict of the crowd. And I have to say, CurlMix really hits the mark. It's super impressive to see how far you've already gotten. In fact, as you know, this is already your second campaign on WeFunder. And the first one, you already reached, I think, 4.5 million, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Given that 5 million is the max, that is super impressive. And so my first question, if I may, is to ask you, well, for our audience, what exactly is CurlMix and how did it come about?
So CurlMix is a 4-step system that helps you master your curls in 21 days. So kind of like the curls that you see right here on my head. Typically, my hair is a large afro, and we help define your curls with the 4-step system. Many women don't know how to style their hair, and we help them master their curls over 21 days because we believe it takes 3 good wash and goes to really master this style. We've been in business since about 2015. We started as a do-it-yourself box for curly hair. So think Blue Apron, but for hair, and then pivoted around 2018. So I really like to say this version of CurlMix existed from 2018 to now. And back in 2018, we actually filmed to be on Shark Tank and aired in 2019. And that was the year we went from 1 to 5 million in revenue. And we raised 1.2 million from the former CEO of LinkedIn, Jeff Weiner, and some other partners. And we've just been rocking and rolling ever since then.
Yeah, it's downright amazing. I noticed that Alan Hamilton is also one of your investors. Her story, as you know itself, is already amazing, and I'm very delighted to see it. It's interesting, actually, that you point out in your campaign how tough, quite frankly, it is for not just minority, but female as well businesses to raise money from VCs in particular. I mean, that is a very sad testament, quite frankly, that should be the case even today.
Yeah, the stats are jaw-dropping. I mean, women make up 50% of the population, and we're the largest consumers, and we make up, I want to say, almost 40% of businesses, some significant amount. We make up a significant amount of businesses. Unfortunately, we only get 2% of venture capital. Technically 1.9%. It used to be 3%, went down in 2022 to 1.9%, and Black women get 0.03% overall. So largely women, people of color, Black women, grossly underfunded, and yet we're still building businesses. You know, I went from 1 to 5 million in revenue and could not raise a seed round of a couple $1 million outside of Jeff, and that money kind of came by way of Arlen because she introduced me to them. And so when I went out to get funding, everyone was like, oh, we want to see more. And I was like, well, we 5X the business. What more can I show you? And so I was like, you know what? I have 100,000 customers. I can raise my own investment. And that's what we did via equity crowdfunding. And I'm so glad we did it. Now it's like my preferred way of funding the business for sure.
I'm so glad to hear it. I mean, that's why I started Next Pitch. I love the idea of equity crowdfunding. I mean, I happen to be a serial entrepreneur myself with over 12 startups so far.
Wow.
But for most of my life, this wasn't available. It was strictly either angel or VC, or of course, use your own funding, which is exactly what I ended up doing. And it's kind of like, my God, now you can actually appeal to the crowd. Not only do you get funding on positive terms, but you get potential evangelists in the process. What's not to like?
Exactly.
So, you know, that I find absolutely fascinating. I think it's a real boon to entrepreneurship here in America in particular, because it took them forever to get the rules right, but they sure did. And so, you know, as you know, now with 5 million as a max, it's no insignificant market, and that is per year. So as you well know. Now,
yes.
Let me ask you, what do you see as your future plans? Meaning, as you're probably aware from the investor point of view, there are really traditionally only 2 exits, meaning either an IPO or being acquired. However, by now there's also a third venue or avenue, I suppose, meaning the secondary markets depending on the platforms. Is that something that you're contemplating for the future, so to provide a potential liquidity path for your early investors?
Well, I wanted to start by saying acquisitions are very common in the beauty space. So, especially in the curly hair industry, it's the fastest growing segment of the hair care industry. And it's had probably the most recent acquisitions. If you look at the numbers, in 2017, Shea Moisture sold for, or was it 18, for $1.6 billion to Unilever. Then you had Mayel Organics sold for over 600 million to Procter and Gamble in 2022 in January. CurlSmith sold to Helen of Troy for $150 million. And these brands are typically seeing a 5x on their top line revenue as long as they had 10 to 15% EBITDA. And they weren't widely distributed, or they could have been widely distributed in retail, but maybe they hadn't touched the international market and they left that on the table for their acquirers or and so forth. And so we see a lot of these acquisitions happen, and typically you have to have a strong brand. We've been around for a while. We've been on TV. We've gotten lots of accolades, Oprah's Favorite Things, Shark Tank, Forbes 330, lots of Best in Beauty awards for one of our other brands, 4C Only, lots of press. And I think one of the few things that we haven't done is like Good Morning America. So we're a really strong brand, right? A lot of people know our brand. We've raised crowdfunding from over 7,000 customers and another 1,000 in this current round. And so our brand is really strong. We just got to get the business to 30 million in revenue with 10 to 15% EBITDA. And so that's my focus, right? As soon as we get to that 30 million and we're profitable before at least 6 months with that 10 to 15%, could see acquisitions in the 5x range. But again, it's crowdfunding. I can't guarantee any results, right? So, we are a startup. We could die. I always tell people that don't bet the house money on our business. But that being said, acquisitions are very common in the curly hair space. And those acquisitions I named were just the ones that happened in the last 5 to 7 years. So that's the path I'm on. And if IPOing looks more advantageous, but typically IPOing is a liquidity event. I'm sorry, it's a funding event and not a liquidity event. So it's us to getting more money so that we can grow the business even bigger. And so focusing on getting the 30 million, 10 to 15% EBITDA in the next 3 to 5 years.
Fantastic. Now, is this your first rodeo, or did you have any other business before?
I had a niche social network back in 2013 for 2 years, made no money. In fact, invested $25,000 of my own money. So, niche social networks don't work. I wanted to be a tech founder and learned that people wanted to pay me for my haircare products and not tech. So I did that instead. And then the DIY box of CurlMix, we pivoted that. So I like to call this like CurlMix 3.0 or CurlMix 2.0. And so I've been an entrepreneur for the last decade.
Wow. That is just so fascinating. And where do you see the future? I mean, beyond the acquisition or whatnot. I noticed that you split it into, I'm not entirely sure about this, 2 brands in effect, though I don't fully understand the reasoning there. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. And most people, if you're not in curly hair, it would not make sense, right? But if you're in curly hair, it makes total sense. So there's a scale for hair, right? It goes type 4, 3, 2, 1. 4 being the kinkiest of textures. And then it goes A, B, C. And so 4A, 4B, 4C. 4C is like the kinkiest, tightest, coarsest curl pattern. Whereas you could be curly with the type 2 hair texture, type 3, or type 4, A, B, C, right? So it can be 2A, 2B, 2C, 3A, 3B, 3C, 4A, 4B, 4C. The issue is that most curly brands service the 2 and 3 type curls, some of the 4, but almost no one singles out the 4C hair texture, but she has the highest propensity to spin, and she has the biggest acute problem. And most people kind of ignore that hair and just lump her in with everyone else. But the thing is, she converts much higher, and she's the most underserved in the market. If you look at the growth of 4C hair from the searching online and Google Trends, you'll see that it's continually gone up over the years. And so what we did was we kind of serviced her directly. On all of our ads for CurlMix, people would ask, but does this work on 4C hair? 4C hair, 4C hair. And what we realized is that the 4C woman wanted to be up front and center. She wanted to be on the homepage when you came to the website. She wanted to be on the label. She wanted to be in the guide, in the pictures, in the videos. She didn't want to hear, we work for all hair types, because her hair is very different. And so what we did was we were the first brand to trademark 4C hair. And we bought the earliest trademark, and then we put 4C only on the bottle and then made products specifically for her hair. a system for her hair. And then we made a separate website. So she has a completely different experience. And everyone's doing really well right now for us. Really well.
Wow, now I understand. I can see what the basis for that is. Now, I'm obviously somewhat ignorant when it comes to this sort of thing. Is CurlMix the equivalent of a kind of a straightener? Is that possible, or am I just totally off
No, it's a wash and go brand. So just how my hair is curly right now. This
Yes.
is my day 5 hair. I did my hair 5 days ago. So it's kind of old, but I haven't had to refresh it, right? And I just pulled it back into a puff. And so typically though, my hair, let me see if I take my video off if you'll see it. Okay, no. And typically it's in a wash and go. So if you see any of my pictures online where my hair is kind of like down to my neck, and that's what we would call a wash and go, where the curls are really defined. So you can kind of see the really defined curl. Now, normally it doesn't look like that. If I wash all my hair out and I condition it and I do nothing to it, it'll just be a compact afro. And so essentially we're defining women's curls and allowing them to preserve it and wear it like this for multiple days at a time. So she can wear her same hairstyle to her board meeting, to her date night, to her kid's soccer game. She has like a look, if you will.
Fantastic. I mean, obviously, I don't have those particular problems or challenges, I should say, but just absolutely fascinating. Now, at the moment, I noticed that you are expanding the manufacturing in south side of Chicago, I believe, and that's great to see in its own right. In other words, to see the development, should we say, of, in this case, industry of sorts in that area. But what is the long-term growth? In other words, at the moment, you're expanding in the US only, is my guess. Is that correct or not?
So we've already expanded our manufacturing facility. We have a facility here on the south side of Chicago. And the only reason we did that is because no one else would make flaxseed gel for us. So if someone decides to make flaxseed gel for us in the same way that we like to make it, then we might consider outsourcing. But the flaxseed gel, what we make is we literally take the raw seeds that you would normally eat, for like an egg substitute or whatever, the real flax seeds, the organic ones, and we boil it. And it gets a really, really gooey gel. And then we extract the seeds and we put the gel in the bottle. And so that's what we're doing specifically in that facility. We're not hoping to expand it. We kind of want to just kind of maintain it and focus on that. So we're not trying to expand the facility. We are trying to grow the business though. So the funds that we're raising are going to be used towards marketing endeavors that are not Facebook. So in-person events, stylist referral programs, customer referral programs, different things like that.
Now, at the moment, though, your market is exclusively the US. Is that more or less right or not?
Yep. We're not international yet.
Okay. Now, in the fullness of time, it would appear to make sense to expand to other markets, most notably, presumably Africa, would be my guess. Mm-hmm. I mean, is that something that has come up at all, or is that just way too far in the future?
No, it's very interesting. And I mean, I just came back from Kenya a couple weeks ago. So there's definitely a need, 1000%. It doesn't make sense to make it here in Chicago and ship it to Kenya or ship it to any country in Africa because the margins wouldn't make sense. It would make more sense to produce there and sell there and maybe ship it here and then sell here. But what I will say, though, is that, we haven't even done like the UK or Canada or Mexico. And like those are like bordering countries. So I would say those will probably be our first steps into international. But honestly, we haven't even really scratched the surface of retail. We're only in one retailer, and that's Ulta Beauty. We just launched in October, and we're in 460 doors on the end caps. Thank you. So I'm excited about that. And we held off on retail for a very long time. So we have a lot of untapped potential, right? That and I don't want to tap into all of it just yet. I want to focus on 30 million profitably, and then expansion from there, so that we're making sure we're building on solid foundation. And I also want to make sure that we leave some things on the table for our acquirer. If we get acquired, they need to make money too on the deal. That's that's how you get the high multiple. So got to leave some opportunity.
I have to tell you, I'm totally fascinated by this in the sense that from the beginning, I understood that you saw the need. Okay, that's great. That's certainly how most enterprises get started. But alone taking it from the concept to developing the initial product, the formulation, et cetera, what goes into it. But even once you have that, that's great. But getting it into a product that one can sell and indeed making it and selling it, wow, that is just absolutely amazing to me. In the sense that the odds, quite frankly, are obviously, as you know, against you. And yet you overcame them. And that is just fascinating. I mean, tell me a little bit about how you actually did that at the very beginning, especially. In other words, how did you fund it, for example? And above all, how did you build the team? As we both know, there's a huge difference between having a small group, 4 or 5 people or whatnot, that believe in it, and that's wonderful, and then growing up and adapting to the growth. Many entrepreneurs, quite frankly, can't do it. In other words, when they get to that stage, it's such a different animal when you have, quite frankly, a much larger group. Suddenly you have to deal with all the personnel issues and God knows what.
So early on, we were making it in our kitchen. I was doing 4 stock pots, and I could get 60 bottles out of each stock pot. And we had gotten that check from Arlen for $25,000 before we got any money from anyone else. She was our first money in 2017, I believe it was 2017, 2018. And we used that money to move into an incubator, a manufacturing incubator, so that you could have 1,000 square foot unit. It used to be a chocolate area, a chocolatier's workstation. And then we turned into our manufacturing area for, it was 1,000 square feet. And we bought a machine on eBay for about $5,000 that would allow us to make 600 units in a batch versus 60 in a stock pot. And so that was like our first step into kind of scaling the brand that way. And then eventually, after we went on Shark Tank, we put a hole in the wall and rented the unit next door. And we were able to double our capacity without moving, which is one of the reasons I love the manufacturing facility that was an incubator. And then we had 5 different units across 2 buildings. And that's when I knew it was time to move because it was just so inefficient. We were making products in one building and shipping it across the street on a truck that we paid for, to then take it upstairs to the back of the building, to then pack in a box and then take it back down the stairs and ship it out to our customers. So it's like the cogs on that was crazy, I'm sure. So we wanted to move to our own facility, but that was how we did it. And as far as building a team goes, my partner and co-founder and husband, Tim, he was one of my first employees. And so he helped me make the products initially. And then we brought on my cousin to help us make it. And he focused on shipping and things like that and so forth.
I mean, alone the fact that you and your husband apparently are doing this together is remarkable. I mean, as you know, say no more, but I know that experience as well. And when it works great. But my God, the odds are quite frankly against it. Clearly, you've once again beaten the odds, which is just absolutely delightful to see. I hear that you were on Shark Tank and so on. I didn't actually see it. How did that actually go for you? What happened there?
So we got a $400,000 offer from Robert Herjavec for 20% equity stake in the company. And while that sounds like a good deal, we were going to make $1 million that year. So he kind of gave us a $2 million valuation. And at the time, we could get a $6 to $7 million valuation from angels and syndicates and things like that. So we ended up turning it down because he also said he didn't know anything about the industry. And he brought the valuation from $6 to $7 million to $2 million.
Yeah. Well, on the other hand, the exposure alone is worth its weight in gold. So, I mean,
absolutely.
This is one of the things about Shark Tank in the sense that, of course, they record, here you shake hands and we got a deal, except nothing is sure until quite a while down the road, which is a little bit misleading, quite frankly. In fact, it would almost be interesting to see how many Shark Tank deals really actually worked out, never mind what you see on the show. So,
right, exactly.
But that's a different thing. But along getting on, you may also want to go on to this elevator pitch if you have a chance. That is also a very interesting way. Again, whether you get funding or not is one thing, but the exposure alone is worth its weight in gold, especially with a consumer-facing product, which is clearly what you have. Well,
what's the name of it? Elevator pitch?
Pardon me?
What's the name of it? Elevator pitch?
Yes, elevator pitch. It's literally where you basically get, if I'm not mistaken, 30 seconds, give or take, to give your pitch. And at the end, they basically decide whether they want to open the door or if you're going to go down again. That's definitely worth it. I don't have the address with me right now, but you can find it online, I'm sure. And that would be something, again, alone for the exposure, regardless of how it goes. If it goes well, so much the better. But, definitely, I think you'd be a perfect candidate for that. And that can only help to further drive you forward. So I really appreciate you having the time to come on to Next Pitch TV. We'll go ahead and get this published as soon as possible, and I wish you all the very best with your campaign. It's definitely one of the best that I've seen, and we've tracked all of them since the beginning. In fact, I had one of the first campaigns on the first day equity crowdfunding went live
Wow,
because
that's
I love the
incredible.
concept so much.
That's
But,
incredible.
well,
Our crowdfund actually closes on April 1st, by the way, as well, Ralph. So if you want to share that with the community, you can let them know. We close April 1st. So you got to
well,
get checks in.
all the more reason to get it out right away, and we will endeavor to do just that. Thank you so much indeed for joining us. No?
Thank
Have
you,
a
Ralph.
wonderful day.
You too.
Take care.
And there you have it. CurlMix, Ulta Beauty's hottest hair care sensation, is the game changer you've been waiting for. Join us in backing Kimberly Lewis and her revolutionary brand as we embark on this journey of beauty and innovation together. To know more about the featured campaign, subscribe now to nextpitch.tv.